We're still at it, people. We're still at it. Look, we're getting through this book. Slowly but surely. Holy. It is quite the book, eh? Well, this is exciting. This is another long one. However, though, the exciting part of that is that this is the last in the first book, which this is comprised of several books. So we've always been reading from Debts and Lessons so far. And the next book we have to look forward to is On the River Gran, Among the Quadi, Book 2. But this next one we're going to read, 17, final one. It's another doozy. It's about 2 pages long. And it's titled The Gods. So here we go. So what is Marcus Aurelius indebted to the gods for, and or what has he learned from the gods? And remember, this is back 2,000 years ago, where very, very much so in Roman culture, gods were omnipresent in society. There were gods for partying and for death and for the harvest. And those are still present today, maybe in different forms or different religions. But it was very much so a part of life. So here we go. That I had good grandparents, a good mother and father, a good sister, good teachers, good servants, relatives, friends, almost without exception. And that I never lost control of myself with any of them, although I had it in me to do that, and I might have, easily. But thanks to the gods, I was never put in that position, and so escaped the test. That I wasn't raised by my grandfather's girlfriend for longer than I was. That I didn't lose my virginity too early, and didn't enter adulthood until it was time. Put it off, even. That I had someone as a ruler and as a father who could keep me from being arrogant and make me realize that even at court you can live without a troop of bodyguards in gorgeous clothes, lamps, sculpture, the whole charade. That you can behave almost like an ordinary person without seeming slovenly or careless as a ruler or when carrying out official obligations. That I had the kind of brother I did, one whose character challenged me to improve my own, one whose love and affection enriched my life. And remember back, that was the brother Severus, a couple passages ago. That my children weren't born stupid or physically deformed, that I was more talented in rhetoric or poetry or other areas. If I'd felt that I was making better progress, I might never have given them up. That I conferred on the people who brought me up the honors they seemed to want. I'm just going to repeat that sentence. That I conferred on the people who brought me up the honors they seemed to want early on, instead of putting them off, since they were still young, with the hope that I'd do it later. That I knew Apollonius and Rusticus and Maximus. That I was shown clearly and often what it would be like to live as nature requires. The gods did all they could, through their gifts, their help, their inspiration, to ensure that I could live as nature demands. And if I failed, it's no one's fault but mine. Because I didn't pay attention to what they told me, to what they taught me, practically, step by step. That my body has held out, especially considering the life I've led. That I'd never laid a finger on Bendica or on Theodotus, and that even later, when I was overcome by passion, I recovered from it. That even though I was often upset with Rusticus, I never did anything that I would have regretted later. That even though she died young, at least my mother spent her last years with me. That whenever I felt like helping someone who is short of money or otherwise in need, I never had to be told that I had no resources to do it with, and that I was never put in that position myself of having to take something from someone else. That I have the wife I do, obedient, loving, humble, that my children had competent teachers, remedies granted through dreams, when I was coughing blood, for instance, and having fits of dizziness, and the one at Katia, that when I became interested in philosophy, I didn't fall into the hands of charlatans, and didn't get bogged down in writing treatises, or become absorbed by logic chopping, or preoccupied with physics. all things for which we need the help of fortune and the gods. That's the end of that one, and that's the end of Book 1, Debts and Lessons. Again, this one's so long, I'm not going to dissect it line item by line item here, but it sounds like Marcus Aurelius was very thankful for the position he was born into, for the people that he surrounded himself with, some insights into just knowing what he, the stoicism that he partook in and what he believed in. A huge component of that is making the best of a situation that you have, and not necessarily viewing things as good or bad necessarily, but rather just as they are. And so even though Marcus Aurelius was quite a privileged person in his day, he was eventually the emperor of Rome, surrounded by luxuries and high-status people for most of his life, if not all of his life. Where was I going with that? Shoot. Oh, yes. So, despite that, despite probably very adept, very high-class people, very interesting, well-educated people around him, which probably tilt towards being good people, people that can discuss philosophy with, teach good mannerisms and ways to be a good person. Despite that, I believe that his teachings and adherence to Stoicism probably also had a hand in this, where his viewing that the gods had bestowed upon him, just all these people around him that treated him well, treated him with good lessons to learn. Because there's a few parts in there where, as you read it, it sounds like it wasn't always great. It sounds like there were arguments and disagreements, but he viewed those as lessons. And so by viewing it as a lesson and learning from it, he was then able to extract positivity from it. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with this point here, is that despite all these luxuries around him, probably a big chunk of that had to do with just his mindset of how he viewed things. And so there's most likely aspects of that where he thanked the gods for not only bringing these people around him, but also, like, in a way, he had the mental, what would you call it? The way he perceived the world as gifted by the gods allowed him to take advantage of the good people the gods put in front of him. Because it kind of takes both. The gods could have put really great, the best people in the world around him, which it sounds like some of these people arguably were for the time. But if he didn't also have the God's blessing to view these setbacks as lessons and learnings, and to have a mentality where each of these people in his life he had something to learn from, he wouldn't have been able to take advantage of the lessons that would have been there. And so that sounds like what he's really thanking there, who or what, but that's where he's getting at, I believe, is just good fortune, good healthy mindset, all these things. Give me a sec here. Let me see if there's any other thoughts. Just kind of surface level general thoughts about this. Not going too deep into anything. To reiterate again, as I very first said, though, like back in this day and time, the gods were everywhere. Every action that you could take, there'd be a god watching that particular action, or setting up that action so that you could have that interaction in society. They were everywhere, and there's a quote from Dan Carlin, and it's a quote from a different historian, a very famous historian, but I forget his name now, so I'll quote Dan Carlin for this. But that although us in modern society, you can digress that magic doesn't exist. Now, there's a lot of there's a lot to be said there. Like, who can really say for sure magic doesn't exist? But generally in society, we believe that magic and kind of adjunct to that, the gods, the forces beyond physical reality that as we understand it, exist and manipulate things, either in good or bad ways, or maybe more so in favorable or less favorable ways. Although we in society don't really accept that's reality. The people back then living at this time, and for most of human history, did. And so whether or not magic is real, when you look back in time like this, if you have entire societies and cultures based around magic and gods existing and these supernatural forces, you have to take that into account for just like how these people are perceiving life. And so for them, magic very much so was real, and the gods are, and for many people still are, real. And so to not, just because he's talking about the gods there, whether or not you as a listener believe in gods and magic, many people did, and certainly Marcus Aurelius did. And because they believed in it, in a sense, it brings it into reality, because people would act, and this is the part that I'm getting at with Dan Carlin. People would make and perform actions, behaviors, and have thoughts because they believed that the gods were real, that magic was real, and so therefore there'd be real world implications on society, on the behaviors somebody has in a given day, how they treat other people, how they see events. And so in that way, magic very much so is real at this point in time and throughout many other times in history. So I think that's important contextual information to know, because I know some people, as soon as God gets brought up, or magic, they discount those opinions as just hearsay or hocus pocus or something like that. But there's something to be gleaned from this, and perhaps if you personally don't believe in a god or in magic, karma comes to mind, good luck or fortune. These might be some more modern examples, or like adjunct or adjacent examples that I can think of. Yeah. So, well, if you're listening still at this point in the video, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed my reading of Book 1, Debts and Lessons. And we're going to be starting book number 2, either maybe tomorrow or sometime in the next short little bit. So look out for that. All right. Thank you so much.